You open your eyes for the very first time and whoa, that's a lot of gold. Welcome to Asgard, a relatively flat landmass suspended in space. Pretty cool. You've just been born as an Asgardian, which means you're pretty much a god. But unfortunately for you, that also means your life comes with god-sized problems. Problem number one is that Asgard doesn't really have hospitals or nurses. Instead, they rely on magic and healers. So you're born in your parents' chambers and with no nurses around. The only two people present at your birth are literally just your parents. They're tall and beautiful, with long flowing hair and blinding white smiles. And they're buff as hell too. From day one, you're treated less like a baby and more like a warrior in training. No one will ever ask you, what do you want to be when you grow up? Because you don't get a choice. You see that massive golden light in the distance? That's Asgard City, the capital of Asgard. I know, very creative. But unfortunately for you, you won't be growing up in the city. Instead, you'll grow up here, in the plains of Ida. But don't worry, at least you've been born in a relatively peaceful time. A few thousand years ago, they used to eat babies, but we've moved past that now. The first few years of your life aren't that much different from that of humans. Biologically speaking, that is. You may only be a couple years old, but your Asgardian blood gives you titanic strength. You're already as strong as an adult human, and you're barely old enough to speak. At first glance, Asgardian childhood looks normal. You play, you run around, you fall over. But there's a catch. Everything in Asgard is 3 times denser than it is on Earth. Even though the gravity here is almost identical to Earth's, everything is much heavier. Whether it's a wooden chair or an actual person, your skin, muscle, and bone tissues are far more durable than humans, which helps give you your superhuman strength and weight. And unfortunately for your mother, it means that when she brought you into this world a few years ago, it was basically like giving birth to a bowling ball. By the time you're 4 years old, your parents already expect you to act like a warrior in training. Forget finger painting and playing with toys. Your toys are wooden swords, metal shields, and practice dummies that weigh more than most humans. Remember, everything in Asgard is denser and heavier, so even your baby blocks could probably crush a car. You'll grow up hearing bedtime stories about war, how Odin slaughtered armies, how Thor crushed trolls, how Brunhild led the Valkyries into hell itself. They're not just stories, they're your history. But what exactly is Asgard? Well, it depends who you ask. Other Asgardians will tell you that it's one of the 9 realms held together by Yggdrasil, the World Tree. This World Tree has 9 different branches, one for each of the 9 realms. One of the most important ones is Midgard, also known as Earth. If you go there and ask a particularly smart human what Asgard is, their answer will be slightly different. In the olden days, they might have called it something else, but with their more modern understanding of science, they know that Asgard is a small pocket dimension adjacent to Earth. As much as those two answers may sound different on paper, they're actually both correct. You see, Asgard isn't a spherical planet like Earth. It's a flat landmass suspended in space inside another dimension, with a surface area about the same size as the continental United States. It doesn't rotate on its axis or revolve around a sun. It's stuck in a fixed position, yet somehow has a night and day cycle without a sun. How does that work? Well, the same way a lot of things work here. Magic. But because Asgard is basically flat, it also means that it's possible to just walk off the edge of the planet and fall into the void. The magical force keeping the seas and the atmosphere from escaping doesn't apply to anything else. So if you go off the edge, you're on your own. As you grow up, you hear all about the different races and cultures of the 9 realms. Asgard is the home of the Asgardians. Muspelheim is a realm of eternal fire, and home to the fire demons and their lord Surtur. Svartalfheim is home to the evil dark elves. Vanaheim is the home of your peaceful and friendly cousin race, the Vanir. Nidavellir is home to the dwarves, master craftsmen and farmers who maintain friendly trade relations with Asgard. Jotunheim, the icy home of the frost giants, one of Asgard's worst enemies. Alfheim, the home of the Light Elves. They're peaceful, friendly, and happy beings, who own almost no weapons. Niflheim, which is literally just hell. And finally, Midgard, also known as Earth, home to the humans. They look up to you. And people in Scandinavia have created a whole religion around Asgardian culture from when your people visited the planet a while back. But you don't really think about them all that much. Boring, right? Don't worry. Most Asgardian children don't really care for academics, so you're in the same boat as everyone else. Luckily for you, Asgardian culture favors battle and fighting over any kind of academic pursuits, so you tend to do all the thinking with your fists. Now it's your 5th birthday, but something isn't quite right. Your whole family is there, your grandparents, your uncles and aunts, your mum, but it looks like there's no sign of your dad. But hey, that's okay. You're Asgardian, which means you're gonna live for thousands of years. Well, if you don't die in battle, of course. And even though birthdays are a big part of the culture here, if someone can't make it to your party, there's still plenty more to come in the future. One of the many perks of being born an Asgardian is your superhuman durability. You're capable of withstanding great impact forces, exposure to temperature and pressure extremes, and falls from great heights without sustaining physical injury. In fact, while the children on Midgard are taught not to run with scissors, you're taught to toss your sword aside if you ever find yourself falling from the sky towards a planet's surface. You may be strong enough to withstand the impact, but if you land on your sword, that's a whole different story. Despite your natural durability, it's still very possible for an Asgardian to be injured, or even killed. But your highly advanced metabolism means you can recover from any injuries with superhuman speed and efficiency. In fact, your healing factor is so powerful that under the right conditions, a normal Asgardian can survive having their heart removed for 5 minutes while their neural system continues to function normally. Your healing may be superhuman, but it's not regenerative. Meaning, if you lose an arm or a limb, it's gone forever. And being a society of Viking warriors, it's a lot more common than you'd think. You're born with the body of a god, but in Asgard, that doesn't make you special. It just means you're playing on hard mode from the beginning. Even as a small child, nothing is more important to Asgardian society than your skill in battle. You're handed a spear the moment you take your first step, and spend hours every day honing your skills to become an efficient and powerful warrior, capable of defending his people and home. Your parents are warriors. Everyone's parents are warriors, and they are thousands of years old. With perfect posture, flowing hair, and muscles like marble statues. They stare down at you with the same proud expression you'll learn to wear when your own kids are born in the next few centuries. You're part of a long, unbroken lineage of battle-hardened immortals. And now, it's your turn. You see, Asgard is constantly under attack, with a good majority of the 9 realms wanting to destroy them or take what they have. Whether it's the Frost Giants, the Dark Elves, Surtur, or Hela, Asgard has no shortage of enemies, and all of them want to see Asgard burn down to the ground. Even though you're the most powerful of the 9 realms, and often act as the police force, when the fate of the realm hangs in the balance, it's pretty good motivation for your warrior society to keep training. As a teenage Asgardian, you've been going to school for a few years now. Well, kind of. Asgard doesn't really have schools like we do. They don't go there to learn, they go there to train. Asgardian children are educated in battle tactics before they're taught to read. Why? Because reading definitely isn't going to save you when you're facing a frost giant. And don't worry about any language classes either. As an Asgardian, you have the gift of Allspeak. It's a divine language that can be used to speak with any creature in the universe, as long as they can communicate. So whether it's Latin, Wakandan, or Groot, you can already speak with people in these languages, thanks to magic. That means you never have to learn any language from anywhere in the universe. And in the eyes of the person you're talking with, it sounds like you're speaking their language. The only weird thing about that is, when you speak English, there's this weird phenomenon where every Asgardian talks like Shakespeare. Some say that's because when you last interacted with the humans, that's how they spoke. But there's also a rumor that the Asgardians learned to speak English after bringing the famous poet Geoffrey Chaucer back to their realm in the 14th century, because he was the one to teach them the English language. All Asgardians spoke like him. But no one really cares about English, because, like I said, you don't really think about humans that much. Your early years make you into not just a fearsome warrior, but also a cunning strategist and skilled craftsman. As you grow and learn more about your culture, you realize that honor is at the very forefront of Asgardian values. Everything you do, whether it's battle, learning, or crafting, revolves around the strong sense of doing your duty to the people and upholding their traditions. Responsibility, duty, and honor. The three virtues that hold up the Asgardian way of life. That's all well and good, but how does Asgard actually work when people aren't off battling frost giants? When it comes to the government, King Odin is the absolute ruler. Anything he says goes, and the Asgardians trust the royal family completely to lead them. Anyone who tries to take their place are considered traitors. Congratulations! You survived childhood without getting skewered by a frost giant or roasted by a fire elemental. The bad news? That just means the real work starts now. Everything has seemed pretty good so far, right? Well, now let's talk war. Adulthood in Asgard isn't a gentle transition into peaceful maturity. It's a draft notice. The moment you finish your training, you stop being a student and start serving as one of the realm's many full-time soldiers. If you refuse, you get exiled. But it rarely ever comes to that. Everyone wants to serve Asgard and fulfill their purpose as a warrior. Over here, adulthood isn't about choosing a profession. It's about choosing which war you'll bleed in first. Frost giants raiding Jotunheim, you're on the front lines. The dark elves are plotting in Svartalfheim, pack your sword. There's some cosmic horror on its way that Odin forgot to mention. Guess who's the first wave of disposable immortals? Being an Asgardian warrior is a 24/7 emergency response gig, where the emergencies are planet-sized. Every few decades, sometimes every few months, one of your many enemies decides to test the strength of the Golden Realm with an invasion. As a kid, you would hide out in a safe space while the warriors fought them off. But now when the horn sounds, that warrior is you. As an adult, you look the same as a human, but with one big difference. Your body basically doesn't age. Unlike the humans on Midgard, Asgardians have crazy long lives. That's because of these golden apples. On the far side of Asgard lies a special orchard where these golden apples grow. Taking a bite out of one gives you near eternal life. So only the honorable Idun, a worker hand chosen by the king himself, is allowed to harvest them. Thanks to these apples, if all goes well, you'll be alive and in your prime for the next 5,000 years. But, as you know, just because you're immortal does not mean you're invincible. And just because you're a warrior doesn't mean you're irreplaceable. You're part of a society built on battle. So there are literally millions of other Asgardians who can take your place when Odin asks. Combat injuries are common, and even those who survive 1,000 years of campaigns still carry scars that never fade. You don't get retirement. You get a temporary lull between wars. As an immortal, days stretch into months. Months stretch into decades. Decades turn into centuries. As much as it seems like Odin is the good guy, he sure does seem to be doing a lot of conquering. Freedom of choice barely exists. Asgard is a monarchy, and the king's word is law. Odin, or whoever else will one day sit on the throne, decides when and where you fight, how long you stay, and whether you get to come home. Disobey his orders and you risk exile, dishonor, or magical punishment. Your personal ambitions don't mean anything when the survival of the realm is at stake. Generations of quote-unquote peacekeeping have left Asgard with a reputation for conquest. To the 9 realms, you are not a noble protector. You are a living weapon of an imperial power. Except Earth, just because they really like Thor. You've fought for centuries, maybe millennia. You've battled frost giants, dark elves, and cosmic beasts that don't even have names in the Midgardian science books. You've survived injuries that would reduce a mortal to dust. But the one fight you can't win, the one every Asgardian dreads, Ragnarok. You see, there's this prophecy you heard about non-stop growing up, the story of Ragnarok. The prophecy says that one day, all of Asgard will be destroyed, and every Asgardian will be wiped out of existence for good. Nobody knows when that day will come exactly. They just know that this day of destruction will be brought upon by Loki. And it's inevitable. One day, Asgard will fall. It's a tough feeling to go about life knowing that no matter how bravely you fight or how wisely you rule, The end of your world is not a possibility. It's a scheduled event. Despite having long lives, a lot of Asgardian culture revolves around death. If you die in battle, an honorable end, you'll ascend to the astral plane of Valhalla, where you'll feast in a world of stunning natural beauty for all eternity. If you die a peaceful or even dishonorable death, you'll go to hell, or worse, Niflheim. But you're pretty good at your job, and at this point, you've got a few hundred years of experience, so hopefully that doesn't happen anytime soon. Hello? What's that? Ragnarok is here. When it hits, there's no warning siren, just the sky tearing like paper. The Bifrost cracks apart in a flash of rainbow glass. A second sun ignites as Surtur steps through with his sword, a skyscraper of living fire. The ground shakes as Jormungandr, the world serpent, coils around the oceans like a planet-sized constrictor and poisons the seas for good measure. Fenris snaps his ancient chains and starts his all-you-could-eat god buffet. You're not a bystander. Nobody is. Asgard doesn't do evacuation drills. Today, every citizen is a soldier, and every prophecy says the same thing. You lose. Thor goes toe-to-toe with the serpent and wins his battle, but the venom takes him down seconds later. Odin throws himself at Surtur and is swallowed by flames. Even Loki stops scheming long enough to die in the chaos he helped set in motion. But here's the twist. Everything that's just happened, your birth, your life, the coming of Ragnarok, it's all happened before. It's a cycle, and it's happened an almost infinite amount of times before. You see, Asgard is cursed by higher beings, those who sit above in shadow. They're powerful, mysterious celestial entities who feed on the energy of the Ragnarok cycle, manipulating the fates of Asgardians. They're the gods of gods, and nobody knew about them. Ragnarok is like hitting a big reset button. When the flames finally burn out, the cycle starts again. You've been born, fought, and died countless times over the millennia, and you had no idea. Every Asgardian has been living and reliving the same life since the beginning of the world tree. But you fight anyway, because that's what an Asgardian does. But all your strength, all your magic, all those centuries of training mean nothing against a destiny older than the 9 realms. When the flames finally reach you, the golden city you bled for is already collapsing into cosmic rubble. And that's the punchline of Asgardian life. You can train for 1,000 years, win 1,000 battles, but the universe has already decided your fate. You're a puppet in some sort of never-ending cosmic horror show. A pawn in a chess game that's been starting and restarting since the beginning of time. And every time, the game is played the exact same way. This is how it always ends for you. But hey, better luck next time.